everyone. I'm Rob for Jammin on the Run, and this is our 20th episode. How's that, huh? Woo! How did that happen? 20 episodes. And this week we have a lot to talk about regarding the marathon, specifically the half on this episode. We are joined by Megan, who was at Marathon Weekend. Hi, Megan.
Hello.
And Jackie.
Hi.
And, of course, Laura.
Hi, everyone.
All right, guys, so let's get to it. We have a lot to get to.
Yes,
a lot
we do.
happened. A lot more happened this weekend, I think, than we were anticipating. I don't think we were anticipating doing as full of a show on this as we are. And a lot has sparked planning for next year. So we have this year and next year to talk about, which is crazy because it's a year away. But first, let's get to the marathon. Megan, you were only running Goofy this trip, right?
Yes, only. I use that with air quotes. Only Goofy.
only the half and the full.
Only the half and the full. As I said to my kids, they're like, "Which ones are you running?" I said, "The worst two."
You picked the best two to do, right? So when did you get down there?
I got in Thursday, so I was hoping to get to the Expo on Thursday, but did not make it in time. So by the time I got checked into my room and everything, it was about 6:30, and it closed at 7. So I made this weekend for me, it was very relaxed. I had got a book before I left. I finished that book Thursday night, hung out, got some food, and that was pretty much all I did Thursday night. So I did not get to the Expo. I got there before it opened on Friday, so it was pretty cool.
So you were early on Friday, so what was the crowd like?
It wasn't bad. So I met Leslie there, and we had a strategy. So our strategy was she was coming directly there, and she got in line. We went and did into the Jostin Center first because my goal was, because I've been having all these knee and calf shin issues. Yeah, I've had a bunch of issues. Is to go and get KT taped. So I was a KT tape virgin, so it was the first time I did it, not knowing exactly what to expect. So that was the goal, to get there first, and then we went and did our bibs later. But I think
That's a really good idea, by the way.
Yes. Well, interestingly enough, they changed in 2016 or 17. I can't even get my dates right. In 2017, they are now charging $5 to tape one spot. And if you want more than one spot taped or one area taped, then you have to buy a roll of KT tape, which from my perspective, that's why the line probably was smaller. But I understand where they're coming from. So they said, as their business grows, they need to continue to move forward, and that's how they chose to do it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Still isn't bad.
No, not at all. It was, to have someone know what they're doing, it's pretty good.
It definitely is a difference.
If you've never seen it, these lines are probably the longest line you'll have other than merchandise at these expos. And if you've never used KT tape, it can be confusing. As far as to how to apply it, how much of a stretch to do. I mean, they have a little instruction guide, but to actually see somebody do it, it's like, ooh, okay, that makes sense now.
And then they said there are a lot of YouTube videos. So I came home with, some nice blue tape that matched what I wore on for the marathon. And I think it helped. I don't know if how much of it was mental helping. I mean, I still had major pain when I was done from around my knee area, which is where I had it before, but I didn't have any, anterior shin pain, which is what I've been having, in the before then. So
that's great.
I'm going to say it helped.
Not to get off on a side thing here, but I have used KT tape in the past for foot and ankle problems, and it certainly has helped. I haven't used it for knees or anything else, and I don't use it all the time. But the few instances I have it, I think it does. So,
I do think it helped. I could feel it, and I had it on from Friday, so I didn't have an issue with it staying on or anything like that. And I did actually put compression sleeves over top of the KT tape, which I think helped too.
Did you buy any merchandise?
Very little, actually. My goal was to buy a new pair of UFA flip-flops. That was really the only thing that I was going for. I did luckily get a phone call early to say, was there anything I really, really wanted? I did want the runDisney, I guess, Christmas tree ornament, or the ornament with the little, like the Mickey ears that were hanging off the back. And so I did get that. I got that ahead of time from somebody else who was already there. But other than that, I really didn't purchase that much, because as I took stock of everything I have at home, I really don't need one more shirt, shall we say.
So at what point does the weather become a huge conversation as far as affecting the race? I mean, I know it seemed inevitable. It was going to rain. People were going to get
Right.
wet. It was just like, okay, we're going to have to run in the rain, it looks like. But at what point did it seriously become, okay, they may actually postpone this race or, I mean, delay it or cancel it? I mean, when did that start coming up?
Well, honestly, Run Disney kept posting stuff. And so, obviously in hindsight, they were really looking at it and they were aware of it. And yes, we saw, there's thunderstorms all the time in Florida. So usually, when you look at the weather, and the one thing you can count on is everything changes all the time with weather in Florida. And we thought it was going to be in more of the afternoon, and then it changed to the morning. But they kept posting updates all day long. And so clearly there was some major things that they were concerned about, because it's almost like they were foreshadowing what was to come and hoping that that wasn't going to happen. And I know you all had asked me if I was worried about it. And at the end of the day, there was nothing I could do about the weather. So if it happened, it happened. If it rained and poured, it was going to suck, because then you had to run the next day. I mean, that's the only word I can really use. But at the end of the day, I couldn't do anything about it. It wasn't like I wasn't going to run in it if it was the half, but it was kind of ironic is that Leslie and I were leaving Epcot to go back, because we were both running the half the next day, or what we thought we were, and I was waiting at the monorail, and I got a personal message from somebody over Facebook to say, OMG, they just canceled the race. And this person works for Disney and wasn't running, but knew that I was running. And I was like, what? She goes, I just tagged you on the Facebook post that Run Disney put out. So I know there was a whole host of emotions around that. Mine, because I've been having these knee issues, probably were not so much as the others. And I've already done the consecutive races. So I'll be honest, I was more pleased with it. I think it was, as I said, somebody was looking out for me. But in the grand scheme of things, they made the right decision. And I know there was so much speculation, but the thunder and lightning was horrific. And
Well, I think the thing people forget too is if you're looking at it from a pure runner standpoint, you're like, well, we don't get there till 3-4 o'clock in the morning, but these volunteers have to show up hours
Correct.
before to get everything set up, and
And
it was
Laura,
it was pouring.
Yeah.
It was pouring and thundering and lightning
I
at
saw
2-3 in the
videos. It was crazy. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But I think you've made a good point, because I noticed it too, just being at home following along on Twitter and stuff. I don't think I remember seeing as many updates from Run Disney as before. So in the back of my head, I was thinking, okay, that's strange. Like,
Well, and all I said is I would hate to have to. Yes, it happened by committee, but I would hate to be the one that had to pull the trigger on that decision, because that was a huge decision.
yeah, that's
for
a huge
somebody
loss.
to have to make.
And I do think that the Wine and Dine last year, 2015, that was probably the first time they were faced with it, and that ended up not being that bad. But it was bad because we were all there, and they didn't know what to do with everybody. So they kind of learned a lesson of it's probably better to make the call before you get to that point.
I think the difference specifically with Wine and Dine is they had some place to put people.
Right. That's what I was
Whereas
At the stadium,
the race course for the half, there is no space.
No
I mean,
cover.
we would have all been in a parking lot in Epcot.
Mhm.
There's no place to put people. And yes, I mean, questions had come up during the expo, and when they went to some of these speaker series, is what would you do with everybody if you had started the race and it started thundering and lightning where people were in Magic Kingdom? And they said, you had to ask that question. But what they would have done, and I had originally said if we were still at Epcot, they would have put everybody in the park and tried to put them in stores and things like that to get them out of, undercover. But it's the people that are on that long stretch of highway from a volunteer standpoint. There's no cover.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
So they totally made the right decision. And,
Absolutely.
I know we're probably going to get to the point of, what they decided and, how they kept people updated. They actually sent messages to every single room on property. So you got a voicemail message to tell you about the race that had been canceled. It was in every single property. For the people probably staying off site, if they had My Disney Experience or anything like that, it popped up on there too. So they did everything in their power to, make sure people were notified ahead of time. And I think that's probably why they called it the night before.
Well, I was going to say that also helped because, I mean, to go back to Wine and Dine, when we were all sitting around in the baseball stadium wondering what the heck was going on, we didn't know what was going on.
Excuse me.
We couldn't hear anything. There were no posts on social media. I remember a few of us like tweeting out to runDisney and everything, trying to get some answers, and it was like we had no clue what was going on. So I think kudos to them for the communication aspect and from the proactiveness of making the decision.
And I think once the weather actually was that bad, people, they calm down real fast. You know what I mean? Like it's that not knowing and they're being dramatic. And then once the thunder and lightning and people who were there, at least from my standpoint of watching it, evolve from at home, initially people were like, upset or mad. And then it seemed like it all just stopped in the middle of the night when those storms rolled in. I think everyone realized.
It seemed to me that so many of the comments, the negative comments about runDisney, were coming from people who weren't even there. And granted, my view of social media was, in some respects somewhat limited, because I was trying not to be on it constantly. But there were a lot of individuals that weren't part of the weekend, or they weren't part of the situation, that were very hypercritical of how could you do this? We're runners, we do this, we do this. And there were, then the other side of that is, the runners saying, but you have to think of all these people. I mean, it was nasty outside. I mean, and I get running in the rain, although I'd prefer not to do it. I don't think people understood the gravity of what that weather really was. And I mean, we were, so, granted, when I found out I didn't have to run the next day, we went back to the parks and then went out for, a drink or two. But some people were really good natured about it. There was a group where we all went, we met a whole bunch of people and got together, and there was a group of people that dressed in their costumes that they were going to wear the next day, and they were up there drinking, you know what I mean, type of things like that. So there were a lot of really good natured people. And then, even moving to the next day, people who went out and made their own half marathon.
Which I loved seeing all the pictures and the videos. That was just outstanding. I absolutely love that.
This just fun. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. To see this many people just on their own at their resorts or traveling to different resorts to do their own half marathon. It was pretty cool to see.
Cheering them on, and CM's out there cheering them on.
And did you see? There were cast members, and there were just people dressed up in costumes and making like impromptu character stops.
Yes.
And
that was awesome.
So that was just so cool to see.
I saw one too where the cast members were holding like toilet paper across the sidewalk as a finish line. Like, I thought that was really. I mean, I almost feel like sometimes those kind of situations end up more rewarding than doing a race.
I was going to say, to me, that's almost more fun. I mean, running the actual half marathon would have been better probably, but an experience like that, where you get that many people just on a whim, creating their own
memory. That's like a battle scar. It's like whoever went through Splash and Dash, we're all like, remember Wine and Dine 2014? Yeah.
Or even all of us in the baseball stadium, like how much fun did we have in that like stairwell?
Right.
We were all just on the floor hanging out. Like that'll never probably once in a lifetime thing happened, and it was fun. Like those are the memories you remember, not Mile 9. You know what I mean? So,
right.
I still don't think we're laughing about Broad Street. I think we're going to need some time before we ever laugh about that. But
there's nothing to laugh about there, to be honest with you.
It was pretty bad.
There's really nothing to laugh about.
But surprisingly, runDisney came out and offered some solutions to the situation. I mean, to go back, we've always heard that the policy is, if we have to cancel these things, you lose. Right. I mean, go back to Wine and Dine in 2015. Initially, the concern was the heat. There was that threat of they may have to run under a black flag, which means that they're not going to time the course, and they could cancel it at any time. And we never heard boo about the rain. But fortunately, they were still able to get the race off. But we didn't get anything for the reduced course, or Well,
and technically, I was shocked when runDisney, they really went out of their way to do something. I mean, they didn't need to give anybody anything. It's in the fine print. It's in the waiver you sign. They really did not need to give 1 cent to anybody. It happens. That's kind of that's that legalese that's in there is. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they were even offering some sort of refund or any of that is, pretty impressive. I mean, that's gone a really long way from a standpoint. And then the Saturday thereafter, when, yes, it was crazy, and it took people longer to get there. I know specifically Leslie went and then she drove over, but then she came back and took the bus because it was wall to wall, just to try to even get in. But it was all the accounts for the most part. People were genuine. People were, nice about the situation. Yes, you had some of those people that were crazy and obnoxious. But for the most part, runDisney went above and beyond. I mean, they had characters out there. They had people doing balloon animal, those types of things. They were really trying to make it work.
Right. I mean, so what were the different options they gave you?
I actually, as a challenge participant, you really didn't get an option. Your option was to get your refund for the portion of the challenge that you did not complete. So the half, whatever that cost was. I think they determined it was 180 or something like that. And so I haven't received that yet, but I will receive, they said 7 to 10 days or whatever, an electronic gift card, which is completely fine by me. I know there were concerns for people, especially from out of the country, that this was their only race that they were doing. They would have liked to be able to use it. I think some of those people had gone and started to make a case, and runDisney did accommodate some of those if they went and braved the Expo lines. But so that was the first thing. So if you were a Goofy or a Dopey challenger, basically your option was to receive a gift card for the cost of the half. The other option was a deferral for another half that needed to be used within 24 months. Or the third option was 2 one-day park hopper tickets. So, there were lots of options provided versus just providing somebody money back type of thing, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well,
so you didn't have to
go. It was a park hopper too. I mean,
it was a park hopper. Two one-day park hopper tickets.
A 2-day. What are they now? Does anyone remember how much they are now?
They're like 120.
Like 100. Yeah. 100.
It's 100. If you go onto their website and look for a one-day park hopper ticket, is $160.
Yeah.
Wow. So that financially, that's probably the best option. But for people with annual passes and stuff. No.
Correct.
Right, because you were not able to, as far as I know, I did ask, you were not able to roll them into your annual pass renewal. But still, that's
that part I don't know.
Yeah, because when they're considered complimentary or convention tickets, you can't.
So you still got your medal too?
I did, and I know there's various opinions on that. I saw a really good article, and I can't remember somebody's thought process around it. There's 3 ways to look at it. The first way is, according to Disney, you completed the challenge as it was set forth, right? Meaning because that race was canceled, the challenge has been completed. So technically, if you want to be in the purest standpoint, is you did not complete a race on the course, but you can look at it as you completed the challenge as it occurred, right? So that's one way to look at it. The second way to look at it, and I wish I could find the person who wrote this because it was really well written, is the second piece is you did them. Some of these people, a lot of people, I would say a good majority of the individuals went out and completed their miles. I know Brooke went and did her miles. So, she did the Dopey challenge. She went and did her miles. And they didn't do it on a race course, but they put in the miles. So they put in their 13.1, or even more on the course of that day, whether they ran it they called it the Pop Art Half Marathon type of thing, or, lots of people at Beach Club, lots of people all around the places, boardwalk area that were doing it. Or the third piece is you can say, you know what, I've seen things that say, well, it was just a training run you did, or you didn't do it, etc. And so, honestly, I just think as runners, we need to be nice to one another. Nobody can control what happened. And you, as an individual, need to be happy with what you did. It's the same type of thing as the people that they've, like last year or even this year, I've seen things about people cutting the course. The only person you're cheating is yourself.
Right.
At the end of the day, the interesting part though is, and I could have just been delusional last year. I was paid more attention this year because I only ran one race. Is that the the 20K time plate was in the middle of Wide World of Sports Stadium. So you actually had to run around the stadium. It was not there, if I recall correctly, last year. I could be mistaken because I was delusional. But I think what ended up happening, it was at a different spot. I think we ran more in Hollywood Studios last year because we came in the back. So I think it was in the middle of the track. It was in the middle of the track this year, which it was. I don't think it was last year because I specifically saw people cutting that last year, like not going in and around the track and just going over it right there. So, you know, if they want to do that, I frankly, I mean, my personal opinion is they're hurting themselves. You know, they have to live with that, not me. It's not my deal.
And there is a website dedicated to finding cheaters.
I know. I was, and that's kind of where they were talking about some things today, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
it's an individual thing. Like running is an individual thing. Some people might look at someone who stops at characters as not being a real runner because they're not pushing it the whole way, or someone who walks or does intervals. Like at the end of the day, you run your own race. You know, you do your own race.
At the end of the day, I got the same medal as somebody who finished in 2 hours and 39 minutes or something like that.
People get very upset about that's their karma. The only thing is when people use it as a Boston qualifier. That's like, you know, seriously.
Well, we have you have no worries about me worrying about Boston qualifying.
I mean,
but I mean, they gave you the medals when you left. And, you know, the way I look at it, I didn't wear those medals around the park. I wore my marathon medal because I completed my marathon medal, right? So I was comfortable wearing that one. And I didn't even attempt to do, you know, although they were pretty darn cool medals. So it's a story. There's a story behind it. And to me, it was a story where I listened to my body too, and not, you know, and I think that's important is, you know, I listened to what was appropriate for me. And I knew that, you know, I think if I had gone out and done that half the day before, you know, I would have done it had it been, you know, part of the challenge and the course had gone as, you know, the race had gone as scheduled. I would have probably had a much more difficult time finishing the marathon. I would have finished, I would have sucked it up and I would have done it, but it would have been more difficult. And so I treated it as, you know, I needed to listen to what my body said. Yeah. And I was very thankful to sleep in that next day, just so everybody knows.
Especially having a few drinks the night before. So it looks like that's about as much time as we have this week. So we'll end here, and we'll continue this conversation next week. I want to thank you all for watching as always. Be sure to click any of the links below to be able to follow us and send us your comments and questions. We read them here on the show. So I want to thank you all for watching this week. Have a joyful day, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.